The biggest thing about today was the biggest crowd of the year. You know, it shows progress for the club, doesn't it? Which is, you know, what we keep saying. It's going to be difficult for us on field this year, isn't it? But it's bigger than that, isn't it? So that was great today. Get 5,500 people here. You know, possibly the spiritual home of the club, really. Fulham was the birth of the club, wasn't it? And there's so many great memories here. But it's just tough because you want to give them so much more than that. You know, they sort of world-class team play against us today, didn't they? So they saw that, but obviously they want to see more from us. And it's tough. It's tough. They were excellent today, weren't they? But you're right. The biggest positive of the day was the crowd. To get a try at the end, just to give them something was, it was important.
You seem to have built. I know you're the coach. You want to talk about on the field, but the club seems to have built some brand loyalty this year. You know, where you always worry that can a market support a team that isn't winning, because that's the bottom of it, isn't it? So if this many people come when you're not winning, then there's a lot to build on, you know, and you have built some sort of brand loyalty where people come for the event this year, really, haven't you?
Yeah, I think, and as well, what can we do as a group of players? So you've got 4 million against 1 million in terms of spend, or X amount of internationals against whatever. We've got that. We've got what we got. But if we're really honest and we try as hard as we can, it gives something for people to get behind, doesn't it? And that's all we can control. And if they play as well as they did, and you know we make a few errors and they punish us like that, that's just the way it is. You know, and we go up to Wigan this week. It's the same. You know, it's you could say it's a daunting prospect, but this is why we got promoted. This is what we want to do, and we'll stand up tall. You know, we'll walk in there with our chest puffed out and our heads held high, and we'll give it everything we can. And I think people can relate to that. That people can see what we're going through, and that we'll never throw a towel in. And that, at the end, epitomises that. Just scoring at the end, just trying to score short kickoffs, anything. Don't give in.
In the first 20 minutes, you sort of matched them, and then the errors started to creep in. You put yourselves under a bit of pressure.
It did. It doesn't take much, doesn't it? You know, I thought it was a reasonable set for set, wasn't it, at the start? And then we made one error, and you stood behind your sticks, and that's been the story of the season, hasn't it? But even more so against these guys who were fresh off a week off, and they was used that well, and they got great players, haven't they? You know, they weren't using this as a let's rest a few players. They were using this as a we've had our rest and let's reboot and go again. So, no, it was a reasonable start to the game, but then it was difficult. You make some errors, and I don't know what the stats tell you in terms of tackles made, but the amount of tackles that we had to do in that first half in, you know, decent temperature out there was always going to be a tough second half for us.
2-1 half time.
It wouldn't surprise me. Something like that, wasn't it? You know, you're unbelievably fatigued against a fresher. It just compounds, doesn't it? Because obviously you're making more tackles, they're making less tackles, they're fresher, you're more tired. And that was that.
What's on the horizon as far as players coming back? Blokes might have got injured today.
Yeah, so they had some adversity early on, didn't they? With Tommy going down, and then we had Thiessen go down as well. We lost 2 nines this week, so Sammy Davis tweaked his calf at the start of the week. So we lost him, and then Teese went off after 25. So Jacob Jones in there, who played 80 minutes in the middle, or 75 minutes in the middle for us today, was pretty heroic, really, doing that much defending against these. So we're going to have to look at that area. Matt Davies played reserves today, was excellent, to be fair, so he'll come in. Dean Parata's got his clearance off the specialist this week, so potentially available for selection soon. So we've got them too. Rob Butler's probably 50-50 for the game.
Horror bounce from Maludi over there trying to cover the kick, and it bounces back into his chest and goes out. I mean,
I know.
See that? That's once in 100 years, that bounce.
When you looks down, you looks down. You looks down.
Thanks, mate.
Paul Wellens in the week credited you how you've approached what was a really tough season because you had such a bad hand. Will all those players emerge from this year stronger from this year?
Absolutely. I know I will, and the staff it's tough. It's really tough, mate, but what can you do, you know, other than just keep striving to be better and improving, and that's what we'll do tomorrow. Got a 5-day turnaround into Wigan, and we'll just jump straight in, mate.
How do you turn back up? Because once the results start piling up against you, you still seem to have that spirit running through the camp.
But put it into perspective. There's worse things going on in the world than playing a game of rugby league at Wigan Warriors. It's why we got promoted. I want to play at Wigan. I want this club to play at Wigan. I want them to host St Helens. It's our pleasure to welcome St Helens back to London and all these clubs. We're doing it tough and we're underpowered, but you know, you put things into perspective for a minute. You know, we're playing the game we love. You know, it's gone. There's nothing we can do about it. You just stand tall and stick together.
Is the plan to keep the nucleus of this team together next year and the year after, and just keep having a go to sort of create that?
Yeah, it's always my plan to retain as many players as we can. When I first took over, in my time here, it's imperative for any club, any successful club, to keep and retain as many players as they can and let the team grow together in any sport. That's even harder for London because of the difficulties it faces, and there's a higher turnover in London, history will tell you, than probably anywhere else. So that's always even more difficult. Than when you face what you face with this year. That's, you know, let's be realistic about this. You know, like we're going to struggle to retain most of these players, because what the game's allowing us to do is, and what annoys me is when the agents say, well, it's great for the players though, isn't it, to try and get another gig somewhere else. I don't want that. So to answer your question, I want to keep as many players as I can. Realistically, the game is allowing us to showcase our talents to be picked off. So that's disappointing. But I'll do my very best to keep as many players together as I can, so we learn the lessons that we've learned from this year, and we go forward in whatever competition we're in next year stronger.
And are you seeing evidence from this year that the club is rippling through in terms of young players coming through from the outskirts, coming through to your academy, coming through to your reserves? Are you seeing this season having an impact on that?
What, in terms of young?
In terms of attracting younger players and more interest to this club.
Yeah, well, actually, you know, the club's put the best Origin series on, or is currently putting the best Origin series on possible. So we've got rid of the elite academy, still got the reserves, and in terms of casting the net out, they're doing a 3-game Origin series this year with 8 training sessions north and south of the river. It's just magic. I mean, I went to the north the other day, and I've split the squad down to give us all, the staff, the players, an allegiance to a team, to create a bit of in-house rivalry and to get the boys behind it. And we're really going to promote that well. And yeah, you know, you've got 40, 50 kids, both sides of the river, between 16 and 18 years old, striving to play this Origin, which is where we'll take our players from. And we've always done the Origin, don't get me wrong, but we've had to kind of push even more resource and time into that this year and make that our big kind of pull, really, for in terms of how we get players into our reserves for next year.